Hello class, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning. Fine, having talked about delays in the last class, today we are going to see what a trace route is, and then we are going to move on to throughput. Then we will move on to internet protocols stack. Fine. So the first topic that we are going to see today is trace route. All right. Traceroute is actually a simple program. By the name itself, you should understand it's going to trace the route of a particular packet or any number of packets that's sent from host to destination through how many routers it is passed, how many nodes are there in between, how is the packet traveling, all this. So you are tracing a route of a particular packet that's traveling in the internet. So the name is very simple. All right. I would suggest you to go and visit this. Now I'll take you to this traceroute.org, where I will show you one simple example how a trace route is happening. So this trace route is just to understand the route in which the packet travels, and also understand if all the packets have successfully reached the destination, and also the time taken by all the bits in the particular packet to travel. So to end, you can make a note of it. Trace route is just to trace um, all the routes that a packet is taking to travel from a host to destination. This is one use. The next use of trace route is to find the time that a packet takes to travel from source to destination, or to find if there is any packet loss also. Fine, it's just a simple program written. There are many companies who are doing this analysis job, trace routing job. All right, I will now take you to this traceroute.org and show you. So when you visit the website, hope you're seeing this on the screen, the traceroute.org. I'll choose India. So these two doesn't work for some reason, only the center one works. So this is one such company which gives the analysis of trace routing. So you can here type in any IP address or any host name. So let me take bestuniversity.com and I click on start tracing. It will take some seconds. So it will show how many number of hops, because I am the client now. I want to reach the Best University server, right? How many number of hops or nodes it's going to uh, pass through for this request to reach the Best University server. We are going to see everything now. So it might take some time. Just working on it. So I'll just give a simple analogy to this. For example, I am a class coordinator for some 10 students. So there's 10 students make a pack. Just assume that the 10 students, for some reason this page isn't working. I'll choose something else. Let me give google.com and see. Fine. So I gave google.com. So I am the client who is trying to reach the server. So you can see how many hops it has taken. So it has taken 5 hops. Sorry, it has taken over a maximum of 30 hops, but only 5 are listed, which has um, a trace routed delay. So here this is talking about the delay where, so for example, in this particular domain it has hopped, and to this domain it has hopped, to this domain it has hopped, and finally it has reached. Likewise, you will have a trace route. I'm not able to tell you what this actually means, but 3 times trace routing will happen for a confirmation. So in this particular node, there is a 3 milliseconds, 3 milliseconds delay. Likewise, you can trace route. So when I gave www.google.com, it reached 203.110.80.249, this particular node, and this particular node, this particular node, this particular node, and finally ended up here. So likewise, you can try for different things probably, and come to a conclusion. So by this you just understand that trace routing is, there is a simple program that's run by many companies to understand how the node travels. So if I am a good, if I had worked in a network company, I would be able to tell each and every part of it. So this is how a trace routing works. You can look into this traceroute.org, check out on all these things and work on different things and see how a trace routing works. All right. For example, if I am a class coordinator for 10 students, all right, and the 10 students have roll numbers from 1 to 10, all right. So I call that 10 students as a package. So each student is a bit in that. So for example, I wanted those 10 students to attend a Viva conducted by a placement conducted by some company, okay, for say XYZ company. So I send the first student now. So as in a packet, I would be sending the first bit now. So just compare this with the bits and the packet. So I would be sending the first student uh, inside the placement's office, and the first student goes, and likewise all the students goes. The nth student, the 10th student here would be the special student, because I as a source would be telling that 10th student that okay, you go, you go, and with that I will tell I will ask that 10 student to inform the placement coordinator, placement officer, that he's the last of the pack. All right, so the placement coordinator in turn will call me and say, okay, yours is done. All right, so what you have to understand from here is, I am the source, the 10 students are the bits. All right, the placement coordinator is one node through which all the bits are going to travel. So as soon as the placement coordinator or the officer uh, encounters the last student, he will send me a message back saying that, okay, I have finished your class, or something like that. So what will I know from here is, I know when I started sending the first student, I will have a time for that. So I will make a note of time for that. So what, as a source, I will be knowing this through which node. So here, through the nth, through the 10th node, after receiving the 10th node, the node will send me a message that the address of the node, everything, like the time taken for all the bits of that particular packet to send, all those things will be sent to me. So I will know that, okay, my pack is completely done with its task. So this is just an analogy. You can just understand how this trace route works. There are number of routers in between. It has all the packets has to go in between any number of routers. So the packets would be marked. So whenever a node receives the nth, which means the last packet, please mute yourselves. Whenever the node receives the nth packet, delete. So whenever a node, or in case a router receives the nth packet, the last packet, the router doesn't forward the packet to its destination. Rather, it sends a message to the source that I have received the nth packet. All right, and along with the message, it will tell in this case the source will have a record of the time lapses between the packets. Also, and also it will also record the name and address of the router to which through which all its packets are being sent. All right, this is what a trace route is. I want you to go to that website and understand what these are. All right, so I just gave there's a PPT screenshot for it, wherein if and try to understand what goes here. Just number of hops between the client and the server. That's it. All right. So you should not trust the trace route completely. Because it's just one way of analyzing, that's it. It's just a simple program. It can't be trusted completely to 100%. So look at this picture. It says it goes from the source to the destination. There's a protocol called as ICMP, which helps in doing this. ICMP stands for Internet Control and Message Protocol. It's useful for diagnostic and control purposes. So where all a packet is traveling, all this diagnostic things, this ICMP protocol will be having. So as I said in the earlier classes, there would be number of protocols that are working. So protocol is nothing but a set of rules. So there would be number of protocols working at each and every place. Say here, in this case, ICMP is taking care of the trace route things. So here ICMP is used. TTL stands for time to live. There would be for a packet to live, there is a stamping called as time to live. We will see about this in later when we learn things in detail. All right. So when the source starts sending, when it receives the nth packet, the router 1 will send the message back to the source. Likewise, this router 2 will start sending to, sorry, router 1 will start sending the packet to router 2. Then once the nth bit is received by router 2, the router 2 also sends a message to the source. Likewise, till it reaches its destination, it will be informing the source that your packet is in this node, your packet is currently in this node. Finally, when it comes to the destination, it will get a complete message that, okay, source will understand that, okay, the message that I sent has passed router 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the destination. So this is a very simple scenario, but you have to imagine this in a larger scale, because it is not going to be only 4 routers. There would be number of routers in between. The hops would be so much. So the source will be getting back all the details from each and every node. All right. So as experts say, this trace route program should not be trusted completely, but you can trust for the the first level jobs and all. So this is okay. Then we will talk about throughput. We talked about delay yesterday. We'll talk about throughput. So I have given you a basic understanding of what a throughput is. For example, if there is a channel which can, if there's a highway which can send um, 1,000 cars per minute, but only if 100 cars are traveling per minute due to some congestion or traffic or some minor accident. So the total capacity is 1,000, but only 100 are being sent. So the throughput is 100. So throughput rate is at which bits are being sent from sender to receiver. You can calculate this throughput at a given point of time, or you can take an average for a longer period of time also. So throughput, instantaneous throughput or an average throughput. So if it's instantaneous throughput, the rate at a given point of time, at that particular time, at that particular instant, what is the throughput? So if we want to calculate the average, we can take the average rate over a long period of time. All right. So we will be saying assume that a server, here this is a server which wants to send some data to a client here. This is the client. All right. So a server, there is a node here, a router here. All right. So a server starts to send all its bits into the channel or a link or a transmission link. All right. Here it's denoted in the form of a pipe. It's just a transmission link. So assume that this the transmission link between the server and the node is RS bits per second. It's just the rate at which the server sends. So RS bits per second. So the incoming rate to the node is RS bits per second, and the outgoing rate to the destination is RC bits per second. All right. So we can come to a conclusion in this how many bits, total bits, throughput of it by seeing different questions. So look at this. Here the server sends at RS bits per second, and here it's RC bits per second. Can you now look the transmission link of node to the client is little higher than the one which is there in the server to the node. All right. So in this case, RS is less than RC. The incoming rate is less than the RC. So what is the average end throughput? All right. One more scenario is the other opposite way. What if the RS is greater than RC? So in this scenarios, how a throughput is calculated is, the throughput is calculated as minimum of RS and RC. All right. For example, if RS in first scenario, if RS is 100 Mbps and RC is 200 Mbps, the end-to-end throughput is only 100 Mbps because that's the minimum. Because as in it sends, once the last packet receives, it also starts sending. So the average end-to-end throughput will be the minimum of RS and RC. So which was minimum will be the one. Here also in this case, whichever is minimum would be the throughput. Right? So I'm showing you a numerical example. Can you tell me what answer will be there for this? You are downloading an MP3 file of 32 million bits, right? So a server has transmission rate of 2 Mbps. When I say transmission rate, it's outgoing link. And you have an access link of, okay, transmission rate, for example, look at this scenario. I'll take a pen. There's a node. The transmission rate here is 2 Mbps. Here the access rate is 1 MB. Sorry for the bad handwriting. I didn't bring the vacuum today. Alright, so it is supposed to send 32 million bits. Now what is the time needed to transfer the file? You're just going to calculate the end-to-end throughput, an average throughput. So as I said, you have to take the minimum of it. So 32 million bits divided by, which is minimum of it, 1 Mbps. So 1 Mbps. So what answer you would be getting? So 1 Mbps is 10 to the power 6. So you get 32 seconds. I'll show you the calculator. So 32 million, where is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by 1 Mbps. So the answer you get is 32 seconds. So always take the minimum one, that's it. That's how you have to calculate the average throughput. Just give me a moment. Likewise, you would always come across different scenarios. This is one scenario. It is not always the same scenario. For example, if you have 10 servers and 10 clients, all right, look at this picture. 1 minute, I'll just... If there are 10 servers and 10 clients connected to the core of the computer network, here the core is mentioned as R. All right, RS is the rate from the servers and RC is the access rate from the node to the destination. All right, here we are assuming everything to be on a same rate. R is everything is here. This is one such scenario, that's it. All right, so here since there are 10, you have to take the minimum of RC, RS, comma R division 10, because there are 10 servers and 10. So anywhere where you are asked to take calculate the end-to-end throughput, take the minimum of it. Since in the last example we have seen only one server and one client, here we are seeing 10 servers and 10 clients. So we are dividing the R, the one which is shared among the 10, the main one, the main network core which is shared among 10, division by R and taking the minimum out of it. So suppose there are the RS is 2 Mbps and the R is, here it's given in a wrong way, the R is 5 Mbps and RC is 1 Mbps. What would be the output? Divide R by 10 and first and take the minimum out of it. So in this case, definitely it will reduce to 500 kbps. So you have to check out many examples in this page. you will come across a different kind of scenario. We can't stick to the same scenario and keep on checking. You will have different kinds of scenarios and examples. Please go and check out this place. So this is about what a network core is. Now we are moving on to the very most important topic, protocol layers. This is a very important topic, will not be missed out in any Viva, will not be missed out in any placements. All right, will not be missed out in any of the higher studies. In case you're going for higher studies, you will have to write entrance exams. This will not be missed. So this is what you have to concentrate more on when it comes to first unit. So far we have discussed many things of network. Alright, starting from what internet is, how it is made, what are network edges, what are the core components of the network. Alright, we have seen many components, many pieces. So to imagine, network is actually a very complex structure which includes hosts, routers, all right, various physical media, many application programs are being used, and there are thousands and thousands protocols which are going to be used everywhere, and each and every protocol can be in a form of a hardware or a software, or not only protocols, any applications and anything running could be on a hardware or it could be in a form of a software. So it's so complex to even imagine how a network would be, all right, in today's world. All right, um, is there any hope of organizing this whole complex thing, or at least for discussion can we organize this network architecture? Luckily, yes, we have a complete layering architecture where we can imagine or visualize the whole complex structure, whatever pieces we have seen so far. All right, we have seen end systems, we have seen routers, switches, different medias, the whole complex structure now can be organized. So when we tell to someone if it is organized, then it's easy for the other person also to understand. So here, this is a very complex structure that we are learning. If it is organized, it is also easy for us to understand. So yes, it's organized. So let's take an human analogy before we get on to how a protocol layer is stacked. Okay, so actually we deal with complex systems all our time in our everyday life. So imagine if somebody has asked you, if you have gone on a travel and then somebody has asked you, can you explain how things worked when you planned for a trip or something? So you would start explaining on an outset. There are many things that you need to consider, from buying things for your for going, or so from, you need not get into much details. You will just tell the outset. Likewise, our network is so large with many components, and we can't be bringing in every aspect into it. We will only see the outset where important things are in place. All right. Likewise, if somebody asks you, you will say that you have purchased a ticket and then there was a baggage check-in, all right, and the gates were opened after waiting for a long time, and then then you were moved on to the airplane, where airplane, then you would say that airplane took off from its runway, then the airplane started traveling in the air, all that you would say. So this is when you get on to one airport, when you start your travel. All right. When you go to the other end, again you will have to follow a series of steps with the other in the other airport. Like Again, the aeroplane will land. All right, the gates will be opened again. Okay, you can claim your baggage which comes in the conveyor, and if you would be asked for a feedback at the later, so you can always register your feedback. So this is on an outset. It's a, if you want to tell from the initial stage to the last, it would be very tedious. On an outset, you can tell like this: I purchased a ticket, then there was a baggage check, then the gates were opened after the baggage check, and the airplane started moving. And likewise, you can tell. So there are series of steps involved, and each and every step there are many services. For example, if there are tickets, there are many people involved that you have to give your money to purchase the ticket or give your card to purchase the ticket. There are for this also there, so ticketing is the service here. So baggage also, there are many people involved to take your baggage and put it on the aeroplane again, and unload them from the aeroplane and put it on the conveyor belt so that you can claim your baggage, whatever it is. So there are many services, all right. So each and every service, when you buy a ticket only, you can get inside the airport with your baggage and there will be a check-in, all right. So each and everything depends on the above or below layer, all right. Here ticketing, when you get it only, baggage, if you leave it, then your gates will be open. Likewise, each and every step is dependent on the upper layer or the down layer. Okay, so what I mean to say is there are many services that are implemented in each and every layer. Some layers could have their own services, or some layers will rely on the services provided by the services, the nearby layers. All right. So these here are the services provided by each and every one. It could be combined or it could be its own services of that particular layer. This is just an analogy. So now we are going to compare this analogy with the larger structure, which we have learned so far, which is the internet. All right. Too many components, too many things involved. How will we organize this? Yes, first coming into why it is layered, why we call it as layer, why we need to layer it. So it's just as said, it allows us to discuss a large complex system in a very much simpler way. So it gives you modularity. Now you know what modularity is, like modules, how you separate a project into modules just for simplicity reasons to make it much more easier. Likewise, modularization eases maintenance and updating of the system. For example, if there is a change in one layer, it need not affect the rest all layers. All right, there are too many protocols there in each and every layer, which helps in doing this. So a protocol layer, when I say there is a layer, a protocol layer, can you see this term, a protocol layer? Protocol is nothing but, we have seen it already, a protocol is nothing but a set of rules. In layman terms, it's set of rules. Protocol layer, now we are going to see everything in layering concept. All right, protocol layer can be implemented either in software or in hardware or combination of two. So what all we are going to see, you can imagine it could be a software one or a hardware one, or it could be a combination of both. Okay, set of rules can be either in a software part, or it can be in a hardware form, or it can be in a combination of two. This slide is very, very important. Hope you can see this slide. In our whole, in our textbook that is prescribed, we go with top-down approach. Many books, if you see many computer network books, they would either follow top-down approach or bottom-up approach. The textbook that is prescribed to us has followed top-down approach, which means that from the topmost layer to the bottommost layer. If you see few other books, it would be from the bottommost layer to the topmost layer. The explanation is the same. There's no difference in the explanation at all. The working of the different layers, but it's just the way of they feel it so comfortable when they take in top down approach, I think. So now you have to understand, we are getting on to protocol layers. What all we saw, we are going to fit into one of these layers. All right. There are two types of models. One is, please make a note of it. It is a 5-layer internet protocol stack, or it is otherwise called as TCP/IP stack. This 5-layer internet protocol stack is otherwise called as TCP/IP stack. Okay, as you can see, when I say 5-layer, you can only see 5 layers here. We'll talk about the layers. And also you have 7-layer ISO OSI reference model. This was standardized by Open Systems Interconnection. OSI stands for Open Systems Interconnection. This whole layering concept was introduced by this OSI in the late 1970s, which was then standardized by ISO, International Standards Organization. So you can see there are only 2 layering that is not there in the IP stack, presentation and session. Remaining everything is the same. So we will now talk about 5-layer internet protocol stack. So that comprises of application layer, transport layer, network layer, link layer. Link layer is otherwise called as data link layer. Normally we call it as data link. Physical layer. Please don't forget the order. Order is very, very, very important. Application, transport, network, link, data link, and physical. These are the 5 layers in Internet Protocol Stack or TCP/IP protocol stack. This is what our current internet uses, this stack. All right. Let me. When I learnt by remembering this phrase, please do not touch Steve's pet alligator. So because the order is very important. If you miss the order, you might lose marks, or it means to say that you haven't understood the protocol stack properly. If you haven't understood the protocol stack properly, then it means that you haven't understood networks. So the order shouldn't get mixed up. So, remember this phrase. Please do not touch Steve's pet alligator. So P stands for physical, D stands for data link, N stands for network, T stands for transport, S stands for session, P stands for presentation, A stands for application. So if you remember this phrase, you can write it from top to down, down to top, and then everything else is same. The services are same. Just for remembering part, remember this phrase, okay? This I was told by my computer networks teacher. I am telling this to you. 20 years back I learned this. it would be easy for you to remember if you remember this space. All right, we are moving on to the next one. Next slide. We are going to see about the application layer, the first layer in the protocol stack. So the application layer is where the network applications, when I say network applications, all right, when I say network applications, it means your browser, your Skype, your mail, Outlook, anything for that matter. So whichever is going to avail that internet facility. So normally we do it via a browser or any other network applications that are running on your system or your mobile. So anything that for the first point of contact by a human, okay, it would be an application that those applications fall under application layer. How will all these applications, when I say all these applications, just assume it could be a what is this, a browser. So if it's a browser, how it can start taking the request and processing it. Again, there are too many protocols involved in application layer. Okay, few I have mentioned here. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which provides web document request and transfer. SMTP for mail, email services. SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. It helps in transferring files between two hosts. DNS, Domain Name Server or Domain Name Service Protocol. It helps in translating the host names to IP addresses. So these are few protocols that works on an application layer. You might be, if you're asked in the Viva or anything, name some application protocols, you should be able to name at least 4 or 5. Along with these, you can include Telnet, IMAP. As we go on with this course, we will be learning many more protocols which falls under application layer. So this is the first layer, the first level of contact into the internet application. It will be via an application. Okay, so through an application we are going to avail the internet service. So it's an application layer protocol. These protocols fall under that. So an application layer protocol is distributed over multiple end systems with the application in one end system using the protocol to exchange packets or information to the other end system. Simple. What I said, it's given in the form of a definition. That's it. In an application, I told you we are going to transmit data. So in an application layer, the packet of information that is going to get transferred will be called as message or data. Please don't forget this. We are going to start sending our data or message. So that's why I've given in a larger font. In an application layer, you're going to start sending your messages, because each and every layer, the terminology is different. You should remember everything. After I teach you this TCP IP stack or an OSI model, in your sleep also, if I wake up and ask you what is network layer protocol and what are the services, you should be able to tell. You should be that thorough in this. If you're not thorough, no point in going in further with computer networks course. Okay, so we have seen application layer. Now in tomorrow's class, the time is up, so tomorrow's class we will be seeing the rest all layers. All right, please go through the examples that are given there in the URL that I've mentioned in the PPT. Fine, tomorrow we will go on to different other layers. All right, from here It's going to be quite interesting. I want everyone to keenly concentrate. Thank you for your patient listening.